The moment the Wenny man turned around, 3 spears made of yellow sparks struck in front of him. The Wenny man frowned and stepped back. It was an attack containing the power of a great story. A senior Dokkaebi. A silhouette floated beyond the yellow trajectory that filled the air. It was a baby-sized Dokkaebi in neat clothing. It was Bihyung.
Leave that baby behind and get lost if you know what's good for you.
Red fangs flashed from the mouth of the growling Bihyung. The Dokkaebis of the Starstream didn't easily become angry. The constellations and the channels didn't like the Dokkaebis to express their emotions. However, there were times when a Dokkaebi became truly angry. It was because during those times that the canines would be shown. Why are you coming out for a Dokkaebi who isn't a member of the Bureau?
A Dokkaebi is a Dokkaebi.
How funny.
I gave birth to this child. I might not want to raise her, but shouldn't I act as a parent?
The Wenny man laughed at the words. Parent? A parent? It was a great laugh, and the lump on his cheek shook. Since when did a Dokkaebi have such human aspects? If there was such a thing, you should have given it to my ancestors.
Sorry, I wasn't even born at the time.
And who will compensate for our suffering? One of the Wenny man's eyes concealed by the fog was revealed. It was a great demon's eye. The yellow iris started spinning and emitting a fierce pressure. Who will compensate us for the pain of having our story bag taken away?
What is this bullshit? I know that story, but we gave back the story bag. It was even double.
The situation got worse, and Bihyung's expression started stiffening. He didn't expect for the Wenny man to try to fight against him. Bihyung might have made an appearance, but this was the first time he was fighting a Wenny person. No matter what happens, avoid fighting a Wenny person as much as possible. It was the advice left behind by the previous generation Dokkaebis. Bihyung was a fairly old Dokkaebi of the Soul Branch, but he knew little about the relationship between a Dokkaebi and a Wenny person. The only thing certain was that the two races had been antagonistic since before the concept of the channel was established. The Wenny man said, "It looks like you don't know anything. You didn't return the Wenny people's possessions." Bihyung was annoyed.
I don't know about that. Just give me the child quickly. If not,
there are many types of evils in the world. There was an eerie chill in the Wenny man's voice. Before Bihyung could even scream, the Wenny person continued. It was like the sentence of an old song. The first evil is an evil that makes someone unhappy. The Wenny man's lump was gradually getting bigger. A warning was ringing in Bihyung's head. The second evil is evil that enjoys misery. Along with the lyrics, something was released from the Wenny man's lump. It was something that absolutely shouldn't be released. The most repugnant evil is the evil that reveals its misery to others. Bihyung moved without hesitation. The authority of a giant story is being used. Bihyung became a senior Dokkaebi and gained the rights to a giant story. The Wenny person wouldn't be able to resist the power that could manipulate the Starstream. By the way, the Wenny man was laughing. Didn't the previous generation tell you? Never use that power in front of a Wenny person. The story flowing out of the lump started to trap the story around Bihyung's body. The language of the system was entirely black. It was as if someone had covered the world in black paint. The operation of the giant story Bihyung was startled. This type of manipulation was only available to the great Dokkaebis, above the highest-ranking Dokkaebis. How did this Wenny man have this power?
Perhaps the language of another world?
Stupid Dokkaebi. Your mistake was coming here alone. Something was crawling out of the Wenny person's lump. A monstrous creature was sending its tentacles through the torn lump. The quick tentacles instantly grasped Bihyung's small body. The story, Song of the Wenny Person, is in effect. Bihyung realized too late that the movement of the story touched him. Why did the previous generation Dokkaebis avoid the Wenny people? Due to the racial characteristic, the resistance to the Wenny people has plummeted. The hatred of the Wenny people makes your mind weak. The Wenny people's grudge has sharply reduced your fighting power. A feeling of helplessness filled Bihyung, and he felt like an incarnation. Countless gazes pouring from the air struck his body like arrows. The constellation King Hyungmo the Great is astonished by the power of the Wenny people. The constellation God of Wine and Ecstasy is frowning at the source of the Wenny people's power. The constellation Prisoner the Golden Headband is forming fists. The constellation Demon-like Judge Fire is greatly angry. The Wenny man laughed. We can't apply this power to other races. However, it is different for a Dokkaebi. The force of the tentacles slowly squeezed tighter and suffocated Bihyung. He could feel the deep grudge of the Wenny people through the tentacles. It was a story that showed a near-invincible force against the Dokkaebis as long as certain conditions were satisfied. He was appalled by the Wenny people's story, which had been filled with the hatred of a race since its birth. You will die in view of your favorite constellations. I will get a very good story today. The story flowed and squeezed Bihyung like he was a fruit. He belatedly contacted the bureau, but Bihyung would become juice before they came. It happened the moment his consciousness was going to disappear under the tightening tentacles. The tentacles wrapped around Bihyung exploded. The surprised Wenny men retreated, and Bihyung's small body fell to the ground. It was a tall man who caught Bihyung. What a stupid Dokkaebi to confront a Wenny person. Bihyung turned his back at the cold voice. Bloody boots, a long black coat flapping in the wind. The trapped Bihyung shouted, "Bah!" while the constellations in the sky sent indirect messages. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is screaming and cheering. Bihyung saw the black weapon in his hands and instantly realized the identity of the man. You? He got goosebumps the moment he locked eyes with the man. It wasn't because of the man's skill, Sage's eyes, which was designed by the oldest man in all dimensions, nor was it because of the fierceness around his body. Bihyung had met countless incarnations. However, only one incarnation had the eyes of this man. He seemed to be measuring how to kill Bihyung. The moment Bihyung started struggling, the man threw Bihyung's body back. Stay back. Bihyung fell with a loud sound and rolled across the ground. The man gripped the sword in his right hand without hesitation. The black demon sword started crying, and a solid story of transcendence started surrounding the man. The cut-off tentacles wriggled on the ground. The Wenny man stared blankly at the scene, and Jun-uk opened his mouth. You are the great demon of the horizon. That's right. It has been a while, puppet of the oldest dream. It's the first time I'm seeing you. Ha 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 ha, you will never know. You will never know, even when going through 1,000 deaths and living 1,000 lives again, because you are... Jun-uk had no intention of listening to the Wenny man's bullshit, and his sword cut through the space. The Wenny man saw the blade passing right in front of his nose and shouted, Wouldn't it be good if we both backed away at this point? You have nothing to do with this situation. Give me Shin Yu-sung. What? He followed Jun-uk's gaze towards the cage where Bihyung was trapped. The Wenny man finally realized how the situation had gone wrong. Are you aiming for the Dokkaebi? Bah! It's no use for a human to have a channel. I don't need a channel. Bihyung's eyes shook from inside the cage. The fallen Bihyung stood up and listened blankly. The atmosphere of transcendence surrounded Jun-uk's blade. The Wenny man laughed. I'm dumbfounded. Don't you know the value of this Dokkaebi? It's unreasonable for you to win in this round. It is useless even with that person called Kim Dokcha. No matter how many variables the flow of the star stream. The sparks of transcendence appeared in a waterfall of magic power poured from Jun-uk's black demon sword. The arm of the Wenny man flew through the air. Magic power flowed out from the blade in the form of the breaking the sky energy, and the Wenny man shouted, Stop! You don't know because your cumulative deeds are still low. In other parallel dimensions, the excessive leakage of information caused sparks of probability to splash around the Wenny man. He swallowed his words and yelled again. In any case, you're making a mistake now. Never make me your enemy. I made a promise with my colleagues. I'll get revenge for her. Bihyung in the cage was shaking. She might have lost her memory, and many parts of her past life had disappeared, but Bihyung's body was trembling. You'll die here. The Shin Yu-sung of the 41st round didn't have her memories. If so, who was the revenge for? Jun-uk didn't know. He just swung his sword. Just like revenge for the first round was completed in the second round, and revenge for the second round was completed in the third round. He tore at the tentacles coming from the lump, and then placed a huge sword against one of the Wenny man's arms. The next moment, Jun-uk was standing behind the Wenny man. The energy of the breaking the sky flooded the entire space. Wait a minute! Stop! The Wenny person's lump flew through the air. The next moment, the Wenny man's body was engulfed in darkness that emerged from the lump. A curse! I will curse you! The eye of all dimensions will never forgive you! The Wenny man was struck in the mouth by the black demon sword. There was a terrible scream, and the darkness that escaped the lump completely swallowed the Wenny person. The darkness stared at Jun-uk for a moment before it completely disappeared. Then a complete stillness came. Jun-uk stood still for a while the excessive use of transcendence. Countless system messages entered his ears. You have acquired a new legendary story. You have accomplished an achievement that never existed before. The story, One Who Killed a Wenny Person, has been acquired. All the Wenny people in the demon world have become hostile to you. Jun-uk slowly walked around the cage and carefully pulled out Bihyung. Bihyung cried out loudly. Her little hand touched Jun-uk several times. Jun-uk stared down at Bihyung a while before he placed her in his pocket and started moving. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire has wet eyes. The constellation Bald General of Justice is wiping his head with a towel. The constellation Maritime War God is so impressed that he is writing a poem. The light of countless constellations was shining towards him, but none of them could reach Jun-uk. No matter how many years they had lived, they couldn't understand the regressor who suffered the destruction of the world twice. The next moment, Jun-uk heard a message. The constellation Demon King of Salvation is looking at you. It was a star that never appeared in the last 2 rounds. Then why? Jun-uk felt like the star had been there for a long time. Jun-uk declared, Get lost, Kim Dokja. Then one of the stars in the sky really went out. Kim Dokja? There was no answer from Kim Dokja.